Well, it's martini time again. How it rolls around. Here it is, 5 o'clock. And I think I drink a martini as a reward for getting through the day. So let's hit the gong. And I wanted to talk today about Kannon, K-A-N-N-O-N, or Quan Yin, which is, and the reason I want to talk about it was because this morning when I opened up a basso haiku and I write on it, and I forgot, but it was about Kannon. And Kannon is in Japan is a bodhisattva, and there are temples to Kannon. And the roofs look like clouds, and in China her name is Quan Yin. In Japan it's Kannon, and I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it or not. I don't recall having heard it. But I wanted to talk about that because here she is. This is Quan Yin from China. She is the bodhisattva of compassion of the heart. And in Buddhism, there are two bodhisattvas. I've forgotten I can't think of there's the bodhisattva of wisdom and the bodhisattva of compassion, the mind and the heart. And Quan Yin is the bodhisattva of compassion, and she morphed or evolved from India. She was Avalokitesvara, and that would be, perhaps I can't show it on here, but that would be these Hindu gods with 1,000 arms, many arms. And so the Hindu gods were very abstract. They didn't have human form. They had arms and 4 arms and 5,000 arms, and they were abstracted figures that the Hindu mind loved. But when these Hindu deities came to China, the Chinese gave them human form. So the 1,000-armed Avalokitesvara became Quan Yin. And then when she went to Japan, she became Kannon, or Kannon, or whatever, I don't know. But this was what was interesting. You see this little jade here? Can you see that? The little thing there? Well, a friend of mine went to China, and this was back 2005, somewhere around the 2000s, and she went to China for a year to teach, and during her off month, she traveled around. She went to the edge of Tibet and went to a huge monastery called the Shangri-La at the edge of Tibet. You can see it on the internet, and while she stayed there, it was off season, so she stayed there for a few days, made a friend with a monk, and while she was in the back at the outhouse, she saw something in the dirt. What was that in the dirt? And she pulled it up, and it was this jade little figure. It's a blood jade, see, with the little figure, and I thought it was a Buddha. And so I thought I had a little Buddha. She gave it to me, and I've been wearing it as an amulet, or necklace ever since. And I think I've showed this to you, but this is the Virgin Mary. This was from a rosary. So here she is. Here's Quan Yin in Western form. The Virgin is Quan Yin in the compassionate heart, the loving heart, the open heart, and so she is in different forms in different cultures. And so anyway, I've been wearing it around my neck. But this was an interesting story. So when I went to an import place in Richmond and asked her who this, what she thought of, and she still looked at that and she said, "Oh, that's Quan Yin." And then she said, "It's Quan Yin because she has there's a little head knot or hair on top of the head, you see. So that's not a Buddha, that's Quan Yin." So you have Quan Yin. So I began curious, well, who is Quan Yin? And that I've been wearing around my neck. So I began to look it up, and I found out that in Zen, the Heart Sutra, which is chanted in Zen, it's primary philosophy and chant and truth of Zen in the Heart Sutra. And the Heart Sutra is sung by Avalokitesvara, who is the Bodhisattva of compassion. So the Bodhisattva of compassion is singing this chant. And so I found it on YouTube. And I was playing it. And as it began to play and chant this beautiful, lofty, sacred sound, just captivated me. And my heart began, this is very difficult to describe, but my heart began to squeeze like somebody was massaging it, and it was my heart was crying tears of joy and sorrow combined. It wasn't tears of joy, and it wasn't tears of sorrow. It was both combined, sorrow and joy, so that my whole being was squeezing, and I cried, stop, but don't stop. And my whole being was pulsing life. And then right after that, a man came to my studio for some pictures, and he was in a great deal of sorrow and grief. His wife had just committed suicide because she had Alzheimer's, and he blamed himself because he was distant from her. So he was in such sorrow, and so he was making pictures of his wife to put all over the house like a shrine. And so after he left, Quan Yin came back, and my heart began to squeeze again, and I just the compassion went out towards him. And this happened one more time when somebody with great suffering came, and then it's never happened again. But this was the activation. In yoga, it would be called the opening of the heart chakra, because that's where the heart chakra is. Or you could see the activation of Quan Yin. There's all different ways to explain it. See, but it's this. I really understand compassion now, like I understand martinis. let me explain that. So, a martini is the mixture of gin and vermouth. They're opposites, and once mixed, you can't separate them, but you put them together, it makes a martini. So when you put, well, let's put it this way. Here's sorrow, and here's joy. And in our culture, in life, we separate them, and we don't want sorrow, and we want joy. So we want to get rid of this and get that. So we don't want sorrow and pain. We want joy and happiness. So we spend all of our time getting this and running from that. But compassion is putting them both together, you see. And so when both of these, and how do you put them together? This is a great mystery. And the way I intellectualize it or understand it with the mind is that compassion is being the pain of the other as the other. You see, so it's not like empathy in that I feel your pain. I feel your pain is not compassion, because I am here and you are there and I'm still here feeling your pain. Compassion is I am your pain. So there's no separation. So where is the joy in being the pain of the other? You see, you would think there would just be pain. If I become your pain, you see, where's the joy? Well, the joy is that I'm no longer separate from life. So Buddha says, life is suffering, life is death, life is sorrow. Everything dies, everything is changing, everything is dying, There's sorrow and suffering in that. It's everywhere. Life dies. That's sorrow. That's loss. So and the Bodhisattva is the personification of this, is that when you become one with life, you become one with the sorrow of life, but the joy rises up because you're no longer separate from life. The joy rises up because in your sacrifice to life, you are free from separation from life, which in Buddhism is the cause of suffering. See that? So we suffer because we're separate, you see. And we're joyous when we become one with life. This is, I mean, when you're in a sport, you're joyous in a sport or in your art or in a love affair because you're one with your art or your sport or your lover, you see. But when that lover is suffering, you see, when the person is suffering, there's we want to keep a little separation from that, you see. But when the person, and this is something the mind can't do. The mind can't go here. The mind cannot give up itself. The mind can't give up its sense of separation. The mind can't give up its sense of me that's separate. But when that is given up, when that does surrender, and you become one with the sorrow of life, you also become one with the joy of life, which is being life. Life is joyous, and at the same time, life is sorrow. So life then is like an orgasm. Life is like this squeezing of the two together that makes this delight, you see, of the combination of opposites. The hands coming together, joy and sorrow, they come together like this, you know. So one becomes one with life, and it's a joyous union, but there's also tears, there's also sorrow in it, you see. And so this is not logical, because logic says A can only be A is A and A can't be B at the same time. But compassion is not logical, so it puts them both together, you see. And compassion generates creative energy. When you put these opposites together, when you put joy and sorrow together, when you put life and death together, you generate life. That's the generator, you see. That's self-generating, because it recreates itself. And I just thought of this. Life recreates itself as a whole to heal the sorrow of life. So the joy and the sorrow comes together like in an orgasm, and it creates a new whole being, which in turn dies and becomes sorrow and recreates itself. So you get this self-generating dying and rebirth as the fundamental force of life, you see, which is evolution, which is life itself. Life is not static. Life is not permanent. Life is evolving. Life is self-generating. So this self-generating principle, you see, we're always trying to fix it. You know, it's kind of like in the dark room, when you have a picture developing, you say, oh, that's it, and you pour some fixer, you drop it in the fixer, and it stops it, you see. But life doesn't stop. So the mind is always trying to fix it, and take a selfie of it, take a snapshot, stop it, right there, hold it, whoa, you see. But life keeps moving on. So there's always this sorrow of the dying of the permanent and the birth of the new, you see. So this joyous birth and the pain of death is all one in life, you see. But the mind separates it and chases one and runs from the other, you see. And so this whole spiritual thing, to me, this whole practice, all the wisdom teachings, they're all about this fundamental heart, awakening of the heart, and the compassion of the heart, you see, which does not separate, which combines life and creates new life, you see. So in this way, so this Quan Yin has, and here's, you see, here they are, here's the Virgin, here's Quan Yin, it's all the same thing. It's all the same. It's all the same heart, which is beyond the mind, which is beyond name and form, which is beyond definition, which is beyond. And in the Heart Sutra, which is chanted in Zen monasteries by Avalokitesvara, She chants this song, and at the end there's a mantra, and the mantra is Gate Gate Para Samgati Bodhisvaha. And Gate Gate Para Samgati Bodhisvaha. Gate means gone. Gate, gone, gone. Paragate, gone beyond. Parasamgati, gone beyond, beyond. See? Going beyond, going beyond, going beyond, going beyond, going beyond even that. Bodhisvaha. Oh, what an awakening. You see? What an awakening when letting go. What awakening when letting go to your permanent sense of self that is rigid and structured and won't give in. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to give in, you see. So when you give in, when you let go of the fixed idea of self, you begin to be fluid, and you begin to awaken Quan Yin, or the heart within, you see, and you begin to sing a compassionate song, which is the elixir of joy and sorrow mixed together. You notice when we cry in pain or joy, it's the same tear, right? It's the same tear. Okay? And you can't look at a picture of somebody crying, you can't tell if they're happy or sad. You see? So let that be our martini for today, and I'll see you in the morning at Buddha's in Your Landfill, and we'll see what we're going to discover in the landfill of our everyday world tomorrow morning.